Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here is part 2, masking stage of this HQ Monaro spot repair that we're doing. Part 1 went through the prep work and the colour matching. This video is going to be mainly focusing on the masking stage. So in this particular instance, before I did do the masking, I decided to give it a wipe down with wax and grease remover. It's a stage that can be skipped on a general everyday job. However, this car here did have a little bit of silicone and cleaner stuff. It had just that bit of a oily finish on it, and I could just feel it when I was wiping my hands over the paintwork before I started doing my prep. So I wax and grease removed it before I prepped it, and again before I masked it, and then again after it's masked and before I did the paintwork. So it got wax and grease removed 3 times in total. So for these door openings, obviously I'm just using my false edge masking trick. I actually do have a specific video on how to do that false edge masking, and I slowed the video right down and explained exactly my technique for doing it, because it all might just be happening a little bit too quick for you to actually grasp exactly the way I do it in videos like this. So yeah, I recommend checking that one out if you are interested and aren't 100% on your false edge masking skills. Another thing that does take a little bit of practice, but you'll just get to the point after a little while, and it's just pretty simple. I find it's easiest doing it over my leg. I have actually seen some other people doing it using a different method, however that one just doesn't work for me. Anyway, just keeping that edge nice and tight. You want it obviously a little bit in from the edge, and it's one of those things that trial and error, find the right spot. There are some cars that, like a lot of those 4-wheel drives, the Hiluxes, the Ford Rangers, the Mazda BT50s, with those big openings on their doors, and they're not actually such a defined edge as this is here, where they've got like more of a rounded edge. It's just not going to work. And look, I don't even have a 100% foolproof method on some of those cars. A lot of the time, it's just, you know what, you're going to get a daggy edge in there, and you're just going to have to blow it in. It's an absolute pain in the ass, and hopefully one day I'll absolutely nail it, but for now, I'm still just doing a bit of trial and error, trying to absolutely nail some of those later 4-wheel drives with the big rolled around lip. I believe 3M do a tape that actually comes with that, basically the same edge that I've used here already on the tape. Obviously it's going to be a lot more expensive. I'm not going to be telling the boss to get it in. You know, you're probably looking at $80 to $100 for a box. I'm happy doing it this way. There's also good ones like the dart tape or the foam tape. You can use them if you like, but I've found if you just use that without the false edge, you'll actually still get a bit of an edge there where the glue sits down, and the paint will sort of go in there and you'll get a little bit of an edge. So if I was to use the dart tape, even on a job like this, I would still false edge it and then basically use the dart tape to bridge that gap and make it so that I don't have to put those 2 rows of 36mm tape in, as you saw me doing before I closed that door. I actually really enjoy the masking stage. It's pretty cool. You can just relax, chill out, and have the door open on the booth, listen to some tunes, and yeah, just get it all taped up. Lots of people do struggle with masking, including panel beaters and apprentices, and there were times when sometimes I just look at a job and I'm like, oh man, how the hell am I going to go about this? But yeah, it just takes a bit of time. You know, even just watching me mask, I'm sure you're going to be picking up a few things just by literally seeing what I'm doing. As far as talking you through it, I really don't know much I can say about it. It's just putting pieces of tape on. It's probably why I don't have more masking videos. In future videos, maybe I can just start to include a little bit of the masking stage, but for this one I did decide to give you a decent amount of masking, but I might even just let you guys chill out, listen to a little bit of music. If that doesn't interest you, jump up to the 10-minute mark and I'll continue to take you guys through the job and talk you through it. So the tape I'm using is the 3M purple tape. I've had a few questions about it on Instagram and people are pretty interested in it. Look, at the end of the day, I actually think it's exactly the same as the standard cream 3M tape. They're just moving towards the color of purple. It's pretty cool. I reckon it's one of the best looking masking tapes on the market. Just because purple seems to be a cool color, it actually looks really good when it's on silvers and whites. They just really seem to it really seems to make them look good. So yeah, just taking notice of always making sure I push it down hard enough so that you don't have any areas that the overspray is going to creep through onto the body. And I always like to, for sill panels where possible, sometimes I don't, but it's a good idea to put a piece of paper down the bottom there, mainly because when you start spraying, the air from your spray gun can sometimes make the plastic flap around, whereas the paper is just that touch heavier and it's less likely of moving around once you're spraying. So once I got most of it masked up, I decided to give it a wax and grease remover again, and that's prior to putting that last piece of masking, the false edge masking, on that swage line or the body line up the top there of the masking tape. So just giving it a really good wipe down, making sure I go over my blend area first, as to not drag any of that primer dust over the rest of the panel. As it turns out on this one, being that it's already been wax and grease removed, that's not going to be the biggest issue because it shouldn't have any dust in there left anyway. So keep an eye out here again, and I'll be doing that false edge masking over the top of my knee. Just flip the edge over and then just start pulling it out. Just you can guide it, so you can actually pull it up and down if it starts veering off course and starts flipping over way too much, or not enough. You can give it a bit of a guide. Once I'm happy I've got that piece, I'm just carefully placing it down over the line. So make sure that there's no wax and grease remover left underneath where the masking is. This wax and grease remover we're using is one of the cheaper ones, and they seem to take a little bit longer to flush off. Not a big deal, it still gets the results that we're looking for, but I did make sure that that very top edge had none left, so it wasn't still wet before I put the masking over. Also, don't want to go and paint over wet wax and grease remover, so I dry it down and then I did give it a final wipe over with a clean tack cloth prior to painting it to make sure there's no residue left from the wax and grease remover, no liquid left, and also make sure it's clean from any bits of dust. So again, just doing that false edge masking. Got to do a little bit of a bigger one for this quarter panel, quite a long quarter panel there. And yeah, same thing, just put it down at the left-hand side. Well, if you're right-handed, that will be the case anyway. You might want to do it the other way around if you're a left-hander. And yeah, I'm just eyeing it up, making sure I'm happy that it's right up there on that line. As it turns out, there was a tiny little bit of clear that just crept up underneath it, started bridging a touch. But in the next video, you will see that as soon as I finish painting, I pull this masking straight off anyway, and that actually allows that clear edge to just melt in a little bit over the bake cycle. It's going to get a tiny little touch up with a piece of 2000 grit, maybe a block, or even just by hand. I'll have a look at it when I do go back to work on Tuesday. This is my long weekend. I'm spending editing videos for you guys, so I hope you guys do appreciate the time and effort I put into these videos. All I ask you guys is to give us a big thumbs up. But again, that's just about going to be a video for us, guys. Hope you've learned a thing or two. Be sure to leave a comment down below. I always do my best to get back to people's questions. Keep it short, that's my advice. Sometimes if I just get like a 3-page essay asking everything about the trade, well, I simply don't even have time to reply to it. If you just shoot a short comment down the bottom, I'll do my best to get back to it. Hang around till the end, you'll get to see the car as it rolled straight out of the spray booth, and I'm having a look at the color in, well, what sun we had. Not too much sun, but yeah, as soon as I unmasked it, I knew I was onto a winner. Now you've seen this video, get out there and paint something. Thanks for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.